What on earth's name have you done to the music, guys? What have you done?
I absolutely love it, Scotty. Thank you so much for rescuing us from that rubbish from across the pond. Ugh.
You see, Kev, there's this thing called music.
And that wasn't it.
I'm not aware if you know that it exists.
Hey, Lance, thank you, brother. That's more like music. That's more like it. Go, Brian.
Not bad.
Not bad to do.
See? And I noticed there was quite a few in the chat that seemed to enjoy the switch up. You know, Kev, you get to play your intro music all throughout the week. And all me and Joe ask is for one day.
You know what? I'll give you both days. How's that sound? Weekend music, you guys are all over it, right? I'll sit and tolerate the weekend music because you're right. I do. I get to play my own.
I even saw another request for dueling bagpipes.
Dueling bagpipes?
I mean, come on. Now Ange asked for that, and now somebody in the chat room just asked for that.
I was going to say, that's quite weird, Joe, right? That's twice in one day. It's a bit of a random request. Yeah. Even when you're Scottish, you don't often get asked to pull your bagpipes out.
So methinks now we have to have some bagpipes incorporated into it, too.
Well, you know, Joe, unfortunately, we would get the copyright strike, but we could get the best of both if we would have played Chutes and Ladders from Korn, because it has the bagpipes and it kicks it. Yeah. So.
Bad hair day here, boys and girls. Oof. Yes, indeed. Bagpipes, rock bagpipes. We've actually got a good, is it the Red Hot, what are they called? The Red Hot Chili Pipers. That's it. They're like a really good kind of crazy pipe band, kind of trendy music, rock music-y. Yeah, pretty cool. You can see them. There's another band, I don't know the name of them, but you go through Glasgow city centre and they're wild. I think I've actually posted them on Facebook before, but they look like extras from Braveheart. And they're jumping about mad.
I would think that you guys would have the you'd be like the subject matter experts on these and on the whole bagpipe thing. So
no, not really, Joe. No,
I'm just saying.
Up my way, it was something that when you were about 7, 8 years old, it was an option to go and play it, but never really. I wasn't all that musical, so it never took my fancy.
Is it? Do you guys hit that age and then there's like a you line up maybe at the start of the school year or something like that, and you get said, no, Baker, let's see. No, next.
No.
And then like there's a select few that make it, and then they're like their life is set down the road of bagpipery or something.
Dude,
how does it work?
If you can play a set of bagpipes, you're pretty much made. There's always going to be weddings to play at, funerals,
is that right?
Parties, Hogmanay, New Year, everything. I mean, a piper, you can imagine in Scotland, quite well sought after. You would think pipers are everywhere as well, but they're not. They really ain't. And but when I was younger,
I thought you guys have a lot of them.
There's certain areas where you find them traditionally, where you've got like big pipe bands and things like that. But I would imagine where I grew up, it was very kind of handed down through the generations. So if somebody in your family was a piper, they would kind of teach you, and then it would go on from there, you know?
And it takes a certain, it's a craft to learn, right? I mean, you can't just...
Oh, absolutely.
You start on a trainer.
It's called pipes and
you start on something called the chanter.
But over here, especially in the Northeast, I got to tell you, they're very, very, very sought after. You hear them all the time. And... just a lot of culture, where bagpipes are a big part of it. So it's kind of interesting that twice in one day that was a request, at the same time. So
I'm just trying to find.
Yeah, you can't. Nope, sorry, you can't play that, sir. No.
No, did you see that, Joe? It totally refused me there. I don't want to go to the BBC either. I want to find just somebody playing their bagpipes. Just an ordinary dude. There's the ones in Glasgow.
Yeah, they're like on page 548 of the.
Here we go. Here's the ones I was talking about. Oh, you kidding me on?
Yes, it is.
Dang, they took him away. That's the same dude, so. Yeah, that's them.
They know what you're trying to do.
It's a bit quiet, isn't it? It's a bit quiet.
A little bit.
Yeah, big bit.
You can hear it.
You know, this dude's going to start going mad in a minute, right? The old boy in the middle. He's going to go for it. Look at that. That's a hard Scotsman right there. No messing.
Oh, they all are, dude.
No wonder the Romans took one look at that lot and thought, to hell with that, man. This lot are mad.
That's what I'm saying. Look at that guy. They even got lucky.
He's a good-looking dude in Scotland.
He looks like a little leprechaun.
They're from Ireland, Joe. Look at that dude, man.
I know, but
Look at him. Oh, here we go. You ready? Oh, yeah. Now we're talking, see? That's what I'm talking about. You see, this is cool. We could do this all night. So does that keep you happy then, Joe? Now you've seen a bit of piping, a bit of crazy Scotsman.
I gotta tell you, I feel a lot better.
You do?
Now that
I dig it.
You like it, Scott?
I dig it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I always dig some bagpipes. Just because I listen to metal don't mean I don't
Now I just
indulge
want
in a little bit of bagpipe
you see
as well.
You see, as a Scotsman now, I just want to go and fight. That just got me going. You see, it unlocks that inner Scotsman. Look, it's even sending Joe round the bend. Look. Come on, Joe. You know you want to fight. Just do it. So yeah,
It definitely does have that. It hypes you up, don't it? It gets you in that mood
mm-hmm.
where you're like, yeah.
I mean, if you've got like a good band and they know what they're doing, they can really build up the tempo and get the atmosphere going and take you right up to that crescendo, Scotty, you know, big time, absolutely. And of course, we're going to be talking about cryptids tonight. Some of the people in that video arguably probably could have passed for a cryptid. It's just part of being Scottish. I get it. But yeah, I was looking through some stories and kept coming across a couple of things today. And we said last night as well, Scott, we were going to take a look.
You're really big into cryptids, aren't you?
I like them.
You really like those.
Yeah, I like them. I suppose it really stands to reason. I'd be stupid not to, right? Coming from Loch Ness. It's got me 2 appearances on the Clyde Lewis show so far. So maybe, you know, I should just become the cryptid man I feared I would once be.
Yeah.
Just a creepy little cryptid, Joe. Your
Just
own
embrace
personal.
it, Kev.
I embrace the cryptid, yes.
Yeah, you must. But even more important, now what's the name of the unicorn?
The Kelpie.
The Kelpie, right?
Look, I'm trying to be
you also
serious.
have that
Look.
going for you.
Yeah, you're trying to be serious now, look.
Yes.
Yes, indeed. Scott, you're a cryptid man. You're into the cryptids, right?
Yes, I'm totally into the cryptids.
Yeah, there you go, Joe.
It's one of the topics that I love to dive into, and I've always been into ever since I've been.
Just feels like it's been more of a focal point lately. Is the cryptid thing it's like a focus.
We're in that groove. We must have fallen into the groove.
Yes, like a cryptid groove.
You see, we need a new shadow guy, or we need something else to come along to distract us from the cryptid. The common cryptid.
How out of curiosity do you top that?
That shadow dude, I don't think you do.
That's a toughie. I've never seen anything so
profound.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, I agree with you. Brent Thomas as well. You can imagine he's looked at some amount of footage and he's the same. He's never seen anything like that. Still unexplainable to me. It truly
It
is.
very much is. Very much is. It's not so much unexplainable. I think it's explainable, but you very seldom have the opportunity to um, get so much of it so vividly on camera.
Yeah.
That is what really got me, is that the amount of film and the quality of it is unbelievable.
You know, it feels to me as if there's almost an interaction. I don't want to say a relationship between the shadow person and like the guy living there, but there is kind of, right? Because they're sharing that same space to the point where it's beyond the norm. I mean, I know we're obviously outside the norm, but I mean like extreme case, yeah? I mean, there can't be many more extreme than what we're seeing at Carmel, Maine. If there's anything more extreme than that, you're basically having to like put a place for it at dinner. You know, budge up on the sofa to get a seat beside it. How much more physical can you get than that, Scott?
Yeah, I don't know. It definitely is probably the most, as far as video evidence and, you know, what we're looking at. It doesn't get any more. I haven't seen anything that goes beyond Carmel, Maine. You know, it's to me, it's the pinnacle right now of a case like that. And it is interesting, you know, like, has Shadow Dude like tied itself to this guy?
Yeah, yeah.
It's a
You
good
know,
point.
Almost. I have to totally agree with you. I asked that exact same question, Scott.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Pretty brutal. And if anyone can hear wrestling in the background, that's because my son is watching his main event tonight. Not me, obviously. I don't have eyes in the back of my head yet. I've not learned how to do that. But Scott, you were saying that Carmel, Maine is the pinnacle of like shadow dudes. Well, how about we go from pinnacles to tentacles? Yes, indeed.
Ooh.
So I thought this would be a good way to kick it off. And we probably won't even get all the way through it. There'll be that much we can jump in and rip apart and talk about. So it says here, truly bizarre encounters with outlandish tentacled entities. And no, it's not some SJW's report about a night out with a couple of real guys. It's the woo. So it says, in the world of the paranormal, there are countless reports of encounters with strange creatures, entities, and apparitions of all shapes and sizes. Now, these accounts run the range of the slightly odd to the full-on absurd, and they never cease to amaze with their pure outlandishness. Now, some of these are perhaps stranger than others, and I am always on the lookout for such reports and experiences. Ain't we all? Well, here I have compiled an array of a certain subspecies of strange encounter reports, which deal with what can only be described as octopoid entities, complete with tentacles, which have come wandering in from beyond the limits of the reality that we perceive. And of course, I've got Charlie Robinson this week, the octopus of global control. And Joe, I know I like to pull the piss out of you about being a sailor and things like that, but when you were at sea, I mean, I don't know if you've seen anything, but any stories of anyone that's seen any kind of weird, kind of big squid or octopoids?
Nah, we in all my time, shiver me timbers of all that. Now, and I was out to sea a lot, probably 9 months out of the year, dude.
30.
9 months out of the year, I was out to sea, and never once did we ever have any sort of sightings of nothing out of the normal, nothing.
Damn, that's a disappointment, dude. I was hoping you were going to say, well, Kev,
sorry.
There was this one time, you know, I had this fight with this monster octopus, but nah, nothing like that. Damn, dude. So in some of these reports of strange entities with tentacles, the apparitions in question seem to be of a decidedly paranormal nature, and take the case of one witness on the site of psychic experiences, calling herself Alcara. Now, she claims that seeing strange entities was nothing particularly strange or new for her, as she had been having such visions from a very young age. been constantly tormented by shadow people. She had always taken these to be some sort of demons, and according to the witness, they took many forms, such as reptilian creatures, alien greys, and others. But the strangest was an octopoid entity that would come into her room at night, and she says of it, "My encounters with different types of entities and dead people has continued since. But a week ago, I encountered an entity that looked so ridiculous that I brushed it off as my own imagination. It had a structure of a human, a head, a torso, 2 legs, but the remarkable difference was it had 8 octopus-like tentacles for arms. Now, I couldn't remember how its face looked like because, at the time, it seemed so ridiculous to me that I didn't take time to study it. Very strange indeed. A similar and maybe even creepier account comes from Darkness Radio, concerning a witness called Ken, who also encountered a tentacled entity in his own bedroom. You see, guys, this is taking a bit of a twist, right? One thing talking about cryptids and octopoids if they're in the water, but when people are seeing these things turning up in their room in the dry land world, that's a bit weird. So it says he explains that at the time he'd been living out in Rosemead, California, in a small little house from which he ran a tattoo business. Now, things were apparently pretty odd from the moment he moved in, as he said he was prone to hearing strange things rustling or moving around in the dark in the kitchen and the living room area, and he occasionally saw a, quote, misty shadow roaming about. But nothing was quite so strange as something that would come to him one evening when he awoke to quite the surreal experience. And he says of this, "One night I woke up in a very calm and relaxed state, but I found myself floating above the bed with my feet barely hovering off the mattress. Now, I knew I wasn't dreaming because I was aware of all the items in my room and my eyes were scanning around. I found my body floating gently back down onto the bed, but was suddenly slammed down onto the mattress violently, as if somebody had put his hand across my face and pulled me down. Now, it felt as if I was in a state of sleep paralysis, and to my horror, as I looked to my side, I could not move my face or body, but with my eyes I clearly saw the silhouette or the shadow figure of this creature. I saw the clear, defined, sharp, pointed nose, and as crazy as it sounds, the silhouette of this tentacle for an arm with all suction cups clearly defined. Its other arm held my head down to the bed and pulled it. And as it was trying to make me look back at the ceiling, and in shock, every inch of my black ceiling was covered with the bizarre-looking hieroglyphic, as if it were painted in wet substance. In my head, it was the colour of blood, as it was hard to make out in the moonlight shining through my window, and I felt as if the entity was trying to tell me something. With all my energy, I willed myself out of this paralysed state, and once I blinked my eyes, it was over. No writings on my ceiling, no creature, everything was gone. And a few other weird things happened after this incident, especially at night and sometimes during the day, but nothing that tops that crazy night I told you about. I'm not sure if there's a dark history in the residence, or if I'm just haunted, or if I'm just haunted myself, because I've seen things in every place I live. Friends don't believe me, thinking I was under the influence of something, but I wasn't. I was completely sober, and I know what I witnessed. Guys, I've never heard of one story of people witnessing or reporting tentacled entities like in the bedroom.
Yeah, that's kind of weird, but at the same time, I wonder how unheard of it actually is. And like if any other paranormal hunter organizations would have any sort of like data on that, you know?
And it seems an obscure one to make up, right? Because there's no
Yeah.
infamous case of the octopus that that appeared in the room or any. Do you know what I mean? That's a weird one. Could that be then? Could it be sleep paralysis?
But why do all cases of sleep paralysis involve the same similar sort of descriptions of these shadow entities and these shadow figures?
Plus, Scott,
right?
Why would you? I mean, an octopus type, a human octopus. Why? Why would your brain come up with that?
Now, what's also very interesting is that when you have mediums that come into a place and they kind of describe the energy of a house or a location, a lot of times, I'm going to have to bring this up because I think this ties in. A lot of times they describe a dark sort of energy emitting from, say, a certain room in the house. And when they do these sketches, this dark energy has kind of a tentacle-like quality to it where it looks like it's reaching out or trying to spread throughout the house in a tentacle-like fashion.
Wow.
So,
Slender Man.
Ange had the same thing happen with her, Kev, and it was a black entity with a wolf face, and it had like a web-like structure, if you will. It was coming out of the wall.
No, the corner of the doorway.
The bathroom doorway.
The open door.
And so, as if you can like picture it like a web on the doorway with a wolf's head in the middle of it, all black, and like these tentacle-like web. She couldn't see behind the web-like stuff, but she knew that something was controlling it. And it was very tentacly, filaments.
It was right. It was coming.
Coming straight at Ange, and so much so she was screaming and throwing like shoes, cups and pillows and bottles at the wall.
So this isn't so uncommon then, perhaps.
No, I would have to imagine it's not. Now, just thinking about this and just how, personally, just within our little circle here, you've got a couple of incidents. You know what I mean? So apparently it's not so abnormal.
That's really
strange. The other thing is,
isn't it?
how many people actually talk about this stuff?
Exactly, Joe. Exactly. Who somebody living alone, are they going to bring that up for fear of maybe people thinking they're mad or something? And that's not to say, I don't think somebody's mad, but other people might think that, That's bizarre. But I didn't realize Ange had something like that going on.
There have been different incidents, but that one was very much like tentacles.
Very interesting.
Very. And think of the Slender Man. What's the Slender Man as well? A lot of the pictures of Slender Man, it was this white, faceless kind of
like
dude.
A white, faceless
and
kind
arms,
of scarecrowish kind of dude.
The arms everywhere. Many of the pictures have got the tentacled arms. And then there was the TV show I watched not long ago, and it was this here, the OA, where
Clinking beer mugs. Cheers, guys. Shadow Dude and I are out bar hopping in Texas. Listening at the bar, avoiding NPCs in our simulation. Clinking beer mugs.
Nice, dude. I hope you can hack that corner of the simulation, and you and the Shadow Dude can get yourself a couple of nice shadow ladies. Brown chicken, brown cow style. Yes, indeed. So yeah, I don't know what it is with the octopus, and is that one kind of alien form that maybe we've overlooked? Everyone talks about the reptilians, the greys, but if there's a water planet, and we've seen how intelligent our octopi, octopoids, whatever you call them are, could it be that they're an intelligent species out in the cosmos?
Here's an interesting question. What lived on Tiamat?
If it was a watery
world. That's a very interesting question.
Yeah, if we're talking about a shimmering water planet, what were the entities that lived on that planet? What were the life forms that lived on Tiamat?
Humpback whales.
Possibly. Who knows? And then we've started to see actual mainstream science come out and start entertaining the idea of did octopi really
Exactly.
really
what do they have? Like 9 brains?
It's something stupid like that, isn't it?
Right.
Yeah,
and
are they actually from Earth?
Scott, you had me watch that documentary, man. That was a game changer because I had never realized just how different octopus were in relation to everything else. I always just thought, hey, it's like a squid or.
No.
They are totally out of place, man. They're literally a fish out of water.
Just recently, I think. Hang on, octopus dreaming. They were, yeah, there it is there. But basically, they watched an octopus when it was sleeping, and they're now speculating that it was dreaming because of the colors that it changed when they were actually.
Yeah, it was actually switching through different camouflage while it was sleeping, so that would imply that it was dreaming and that it was changing its camouflage in the dream and actually doing it. It's like sleepwalking, or when a dog is kind of barking in his sleep and moving his legs because he's dreaming that he's running. That's what the octopus.
Yet again, you just wonder how intelligent these animals are, or these creatures are, and just like so many other animals out there, like cats, dolphins, manatees.
If we're able to psychically project or use our consciousness, Scott, Joe, whoever, then why? Then who's to say maybe one of these things isn't psychically leaving its body?
That's what I mean. Yeah. Yeah. Right. Exactly. Think about this. My cat, my Siamese cat, my fat cat, Siamese cat to boot, not only knows how to knock on the door, scratch on the door to get in and out, but also how to open the door. Like literally, she grabs the handle and knows how to turn it. She gets up on the railing and knows how to turn it.
Yeah, same with our cat. She don't know how to turn the knob, but she looks at the knob because she knows that's what opens the door. And
there's conscious awareness, right? And there's a vast intelligence to animals that we do not give them credit for. And it's a shame. It truly is a shame, because I have to wonder what they're actually thinking and how they're actually processing this stuff. This octopus is a great example of that. You have no idea how this creature is perceiving us or these things. There was a video of this animal whisperer, this lady who could communicate with she can communicate with animals.
Look up the story of Spirit. He used to be called Diablo.
There's a story of a panther named Spirit.
He used to be called
Diablo, and she's there talking to him, and it's not that long, Kev, but it's a unbelievable story about how this animal was so misinterpreted, and she goes in and is able to unlock the issues that this panther had.
It was powerful.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. This is it right here. Yeah, that's her. It's just unbelievably powerful. I was, when Ange and I were dealing with the feral cat colony down in North Carolina, we witnessed and experienced something very similar, to the point where, let's just say the prior night, there were a lot of predators out there, and sometimes I would come out to find pieces of kitten all over the place because they were tore up by a predator the night before. And I would go and I would bury the pieces.
But the mamas would bring us.
And then what would happen? What would happen is, the mamas they would find them in the morning, and they would bring them up on the doorstep and basically scratch on my door, looking at me and saying, "Hey, is there anything you can do about this? Help us! Help! I'm looking for help with my baby." And there's nothing I can do, so I just basically love and console the cat. And then we had like a little cat funeral, and we went and had a burial and all that kind of stuff. But some of these mothers were so inconsolable sometimes that they would literally sniff out the burial site again, dig up the babies, and then put them back on my doorstep again and scratch on my door asking me to put it together. And it's just heart-wrenching.
You had to learn
to
bury them much
so I had to learn to bury them much deeper because they would sniff them out.
That's wild,
and it's
man.
just like, you don't really understand. You don't understand how deep these poor animals think, but also how much they suffer, how much they actually suffer, and just how whenever you hear Bob Barker talk about, get your pet spayed and neutered and all that, I can't even begin to tell you how important that is, because if you knew some of the suffering that go on in these rural communities where you have these feral cat and feral dog colonies, it's just unbelievable. It's unbelievable. But also, it was an insight into the social structure and habits of these animals too. And it's where I learned just how intelligent they are, but also how structured their little society is that they build. And it's all interesting as far as it's not random. But it's something that they are born with, and it's just like the code is being executed, Kev.
You gotta respect it.
And
How do you find
it.
out you're an animal whisperer? That must be weird when you figure that out.
Unbelievable.
Isn't it? No, I mean, one day, you must, at some point, you must realize there's an animal talking to you, or you're picking up on what an animal's saying to you. Now, how do you tell somebody about that without sounding you're absolutely losing it?
It's crazy. Like, so my cat at home, right? Because most of my cats are from that feral cat colony. And Ange and I both, we have that ability to connect with these cats. And one of them that's not part of that feral cat colony, although we did rescue her, she's I don't have to say a word to her. I just got to look at her, and I know exactly what she's saying.
She comes for
she
hugs.
she comes every day. She's almost like a dog in a sense that she always looks for hugs as soon as I come home and all that kind of stuff. So that there's certainly complex emotions that are there and feelings, but also intelligence. And again, we just sell these animals so short. When I see dogs in backyards and these kennels and runs and things like that, I get so upset about it because
Shock collars.
Even shock collars.
Or the spike collar.
It's unbelievable how we enslave these animals and treat them the way they do when they possess such unbelievable intelligence, and we just don't give them credit for it.
Makes a whole lot more sense now when you start dealing with shadow animals then, because if they are like, if you can communicate with them, and I hate to use the word soul, but it sounds to me like they're conscious to the point where you'd have to say they've got some kind of soul, right?
I think that's at least a life force, or however you want to call it, right?
Yeah, so that explains how you could get the shadow animals then. Not that I doubted it, but it makes more sense now as to how that energies can get stuck as well.
Ange just said, the throne room of God is surrounded by animals. So what does that tell you?
Yeah.
There's certainly value to it, Kev, and value to them and intelligence and all that stuff. It's very complex and it's very deep. I think that's why when you have a pet and they actually make that connection with their pet, that's when they become extensions and members of your family, and it's because they're able to experience that deep bond with you that you're able to develop it, and that's how they become so close, and that's why it's so gut-wrenching that they don't live so long.
It's just as well, though, there's some, noticeable change in the animals. Because, come on. Let's face it. On the face of it, somebody's sitting there telling you what an animal's saying. I could do that. But it's the fact that then the animals are either they're able to do something they never done before, or like that that animal there, the panther, it was able to go out. If it wasn't for the results you
Yeah.
seen, I would have to be calling shenanigans. But the
Oh,
fact,
absolutely.
yeah, but the fact that you do see like results at the end of this, probably better than counseling works for humans, I would imagine, because
Sure.
exactly right, because you see more success stories when it's animals of this nature. So yeah, definitely something to it, definitely.
And especially when she talked about the two cubs. You know, she was never told about the two cubs. Heck, the people that called her out there forgot about those two cubs. So they had no idea how profoundly affected the panther was by these two cubs and the fact that they weren't there anymore.
He was worried.
You know, she was worried about him. And so, yeah, of course it was affecting her. But you would never have known that had she not come out there.
It was pretty mental, man. Well mental.
Yeah, it's immense. It's immense. To me, it just speaks volumes to how much more complex life truly is compared to how we live it every day. You know, we live such a shallow existence. Truly, look at how much more unbelievable it could be if we just plugged into it.
Water has a memory.
You know?
Here's an interesting.
Water.
What if some of these shadow animals, Kev, are animals that have the ability to astral project themselves?
Oh, I like the idea of that. Like we were talking about the octopus when it was sleeping, maybe it can
Yeah.
like psychically go somewhere.
You know,
Why
Ange
not?
just brought up a good point too, guys. Water has a memory. You know, water has a memory, and what do we use it for? How do we use it? Are we even using it the right way? You know, is there a right way to use it? I don't know, but I'm just saying that it has a memory, and we don't even.
We underestimate
You know,
everything.
I guess we underestimate everything. Is her point?
Mm-hmm. I would agree with that. Who knows how much we know about anything? I was just trying to see if there was any more on shadowy animals there, but I know you got a story as well, Scott. It was is it the translated one?
Yes, yes.
So I've not checked this out. What's happening, dude? Let's see this.
Yeah, I came across this, and it's actually from a French paranormal site, so I had to Google Translate it. But this is some very, very crazy cryptid cryptid woo that we got here. Yeah, it's the strange case of the mysterious Innerdale vampire dog.
The
And-
Innerdale vampire dog.
Yeah.
Never heard of this one. Never heard
That
of
sounds
it.
like a campfire story from hell, right there, dude.
Big time. I mean, I talked with Armand the other day about the vampire of Highgate down in London, like a real dude in the paper and everything else. But I tell you what, there was no vampire dogs kicking around, Scott. And what I like about this is you were telling me it's French, but it's about an English story, right?
Yeah. I seen this posted somewhere, and they had posted a translation. So obviously it sounds like a pretty good paranormal site, but it's just it's run by somebody in France, and so I might have to check it out and just translate the whole site and read through a lot of the stuff that they post on it. But yeah, so the strange case of the mysterious Innerdale vampire dog. It says the remote Innerdale Valley in Cumberland County in northwestern England is a place of breathtaking beauty with hills and scenic vistas. Here, there are few roads, quaint cottages, a multitude of pristine lakes, and many sheep. As a result, there is little to suggest that this beautiful landscape has a dark past. In 1810, a sinister visitor arrived in this remote and peaceful valley. It was a mysterious and imposing creature who ruthlessly killed hundreds of sheep before draining them of their blood. This monster terrorized the population. The first testimony of something strange and malicious comes from a sheep farmer. The latter claimed to have seen a very large creature resembling a dog sneaking up the mountainside. Shortly after, a multitude of enigmatic deaths would begin. A sheep was ripped to pieces by something big and powerful. Some of its organs had been removed and were missing. Very,
That sounds
very
yeah.
simple.
Sounds
Here we go.
mutilation. That sounds like somebody's been really, really bad to one of my favourite sheep. Can't be having that.
Yeah, very, very cattle mutilation-ish, kind of cattle mutilation kind of thing going on here. So it says some of its organs had been removed and were missing. In addition, he no longer had a drop of blood, as if an animal had completely drunk his blood to the last drop. So here we go. It's the same thing. Blood completely drained, organs missing. You got to remember this is occurring in 1810. So very, very interesting. It says this story is rather scary because there were no known predators in the area that could have inflicted such damage. It was obvious that it was not the case of a normal dog. Yet the frightened villagers were trying to figure out what caused the carnage. They quickly established a link with the beast seen by the shepherd, and those sheep that were beginning to be mutilated and dying. At first, this strange invisible monster was killing sheep here and there, but these phenomena quickly degenerated into intensity. Sometime later, a sheep perished every day. Then, no less than 8 of these animals were killed each night. So this looked like it really began to escalate to the point to where a lot of sheep started getting taken out. Says each time the victims' bodies were literally torn apart and their blood was completely drained. Strangely, there was no sign that the predator had consumed its victim. It should be noted that no animal would need such a large quantity of meat to survive, especially since the victims were never eaten, leaving doubts about his real intentions. The most surprising is that only certain organs and blood were missing. These attacks were usually in the middle of the night, in complete darkness, so no one has really seen the creature or caught it in the act. There have been very few reports of people having seen this very large, shady, and fleeting thing, looking somewhat like a dog or a wolf. Because of his appearance, rumors circulated that a real werewolf was rampant in the area. As the number of dead sheep increased, locals realized that it was not going to stop her demonic rampage anytime soon. Efforts were made to try and get her out and kill her. Rewards were displayed for the body of the beast. Carcasses of poisoned sheep were scattered, traps were set up, and sentinels were placed around the area in the hopes of locating it. Alas, the creature was still elusive, even as the dead and mutilated sheep continued to pile up. Armed hunters then tried to hunt and kill the creature named the Girt Dog of Innerdale. Others nicknamed it the Vampire Dog of Innerdale. At first, they hunted her with hunting dogs, but it soon became apparent that most dogs were absolutely terrified by the surroundings and refused to go out into the wilderness to look for her. And this goes back to the animal intelligence situation. The dogs were like, no, there's something out there that we don't want to mess with, you know.
So what do you think? You thinking this is like just some kind of maybe a dog that had got the taste for blood? I know when that happened up my way, once a dog got a taste for the sheep, you had to put it down. That was it, because I just wanted to go back.
Yeah, you have
more
to
and
put
more.
it down. It's
Yeah.
one of those things where once it knows it, it can never forget it. Like once the
Exactly.
door's open, it never shuts, that type of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, but why would other dogs be terrified? You know, most dogs would stand up to another dog, and especially if you had a pack of dogs, right? You know, so this suggests to me that this is
It depends on how alpha that dog is, though. You know what I mean? Like if it's squared off in that community again, you know.
But these dogs never even encountered it. So how would they even know how alpha it was?
So
you know?
Yeah, right. You don't know.
They're obviously picking up on something beyond a dog.
Yeah.
You know,
Maybe it is. Maybe it like a were dog or something, a werewolf.
I know people were
these
saying
tracking-
chupacabra in the chat room, but I don't think that there's a UK. I don't know, maybe there is a UK equivalent of the chupacabra. The were-dog. Let's call it that.
I mean, it definitely has a lot of the same trademarks of the chupacabra as far as the livestock mutilation and stuff like that. So, very similar. So I don't know. So continuing on here, it says, when they tried to get these dogs to track it down, it says they just hid and moaned while refusing to move. On more than one occasion, it has been said that a brave hunting dog was let go to do what was thought to be. Oh, it was let go to what was thought to be the beast. Unfortunately, he had limped back with a crushed or mutilated forefoot. So it came across something and it lost the fight, sounds like, and
Yep.
it got out of there with its life barely. Meanwhile, the infamous creature almost seemed to taunt the locals, killing sheep right under their noses, even as they were actively tracking her. Even in broad daylight, she sometimes left her victims savagely injured, but still alive. Several people claim to have seen it, and the threat was ever more pressing. Perhaps the best observation that was reported was that of a farmer who said he was a massive, muscular creature resembling a cross between a wolf and a big cat. He had brown, sandy fur covered with stripes on her back and a fierce and gaping mouth full of fierce teeth. What was that?
It was on autoplay.
Yeah, so it had so this guy said that it looked like a cross between a wolf and a big cat. Stripes on its back and a fierce and gaping mouth full of fearsome teeth. It says the villagers at that time said it was a lion or a tiger. A lion, a tiger, a werewolf. Others
if
have
it
thought
wasn't back in like the 1800s, I would say it's like some drug dealer nowadays, because you know how these drug dealers get exotic animals for like a weekend until they realize that like exotic animals are forever, so they just like go out into the middle of nowhere and dump a lion or a couple of tigers, just free them out in the wild. But I think back in the 1800s, I think I can rule that one out. There wasn't that kind of push by drug dealers to kind of pimp themselves out with exotic animals, Scott,
I know. Yeah, there's definitely something going on here. It says others have thought of a kind of supernatural demon coming out of hell. And we always got to put that on the table too. Are we talking about we're talking about a cryptid, talking about we dealing with an interdimensional
Well, that's one
creature.
thing when it comes to the big man, like the big man down the stairs, Beelzebub, Lucifer, Satan, devil, whatever you call it. The dogs, the hounds, that's a very common portrayal. Now, is that just something that's arisen through popular culture? Or is that something that goes back to something that was said back in the day, Joe?
Man, I don't know, but I can tell you that there's plenty of lore to support what you're saying. Sure.
Yeah.
There's certainly a ton of it that goes back long ways about these creatures. And then, of course, you look at, you go back and you look at pre-flood and the gene splicing, and even farther than that, Anubis, right? What was Anubis?
Dog.
These quote gods went by many names.
And see when that gene splicing went on, Joe,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we talk about the junk DNA. Now, is there any, again, we're going to be speculating here, right? But when that splicing was done, was there anything that enabled the Nephilim to like blink out of this physical world and go back to some ethereal world? Could they come and go? I'm just thinking, because if that's the case, then maybe that trait's been passed down and it still kicks about in the gene pool, i.e. maybe Bigfoots, maybe some of these beasties that we talk about. Humans too.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
Exactly. I don't know, but...
So it's so hard to say. It really, truly is. Really, truly is. It's hard to say. Because it could go either way, Kev, you know?
Yep. So what else has it got in it, Scott? Anything else?
Yeah, I mean, I can continue on here. It says, eager to put an end to his reign of terror, the reward for anyone who brought back the lifeless body of the creature was steadily increasing. With so much money at stake and uncontrollable livestock deaths, new efforts have been made to put an end to the situation. Huge groups of mounted hunters, accompanied by dozens of Firecrest, fiercest fiercest hunting dogs scoured the valley in search of the beast. Some said they shot her before she could finally escape. There were many poignant and very dramatic stories about this beast at the time. A group of hunters claimed that the imposing brute had loaded them before killing all their dogs. This one seemed to have ignored all attempts at shooting or did not seem to fear injury. A group of professional hunters claimed to have encircled him in a wood. Despite everything, she managed to escape once more. At the time, a hunter named Will Rothery would have had the creature in the line of fire with his rifle, but at his approach, he was so shocked by the size and strange appearance of the beast that he lowered his weapon and just stared admiringly. So, it continues on here with it's a pretty big thing, but sounds like quite the situation they had going on down there.
Yeah, Mysterious Universe, they covered it as well. It's even got its own wiki page. They call it the Gert.
Uh-huh.
The
Wow.
Gert Dog of Ennerdale. Yeah, I was thinking if there's a French story translated about it, there's got to be some local lore about it. And it seems to tie up with exactly what Scott was talking there. Mysterious Universe, they've wrote about it as well. I don't know, it's just something about these cryptids, these stories, something about them. I don't know, keep getting drawn back to them.
Oh, and somebody in the chat said, well, why do they keep referring to it as a she? You got to remember, I was reading a translated from French so at some point,
it's going to be translated as male or female because they've got feminine and masculine tenses and things, so that's going to happen. Don't be getting offended, SJWs. We didn't misgender the dog. It was Google that might have misgendered the dog. They assumed.
Yes, Google.
Yeah.
Google is misgendering, and it was referring to it as a he and a she, both at the same time.
So
It's the hermaphroditic devil dog. Wow, there's the stuff that nightmares are made of.
That's a very nice.
Absolutely, you probably find one of them at story time in the library when they're bringing their pets in. I'm just saying, folks. I'm just saying.
I got something over here. I just found this over at livescience.com. Objective reality doesn't exist, quantum experiment shows. That's kind of interesting. It says alternative facts are spreading like a virus across society. Now it seems they've even infected science, at least at the quantum realm. This may seem counterintuitive. The scientific method is, after all, founded on the reliable notions of observation, measurement, and repeatability. A fact as established by a measurement should be objective, such that all observers can agree with it. But in a paper recently published by Science Advances, we show that in the micro world of atoms and particles that is governed by the strange rules of quantum mechanics, two different observers are entitled to their own facts. In other words, according to our best theory of the building blocks of nature itself, facts can actually be subjective. Observers are powerful players in the quantum world. According to the theory, particles can be in several places or states at once. This is called a superposition. But oddly, this is only the case when they aren't observed.
Can I just butt in here, because for a science website, it's really, really shocking. Really shocking, right? Because observed isn't the correct term to use, because that implies that there's somebody there to watch it. But all it needs is any electromagnetic interference, i.e., even the cosmic background radiation can be classed as the observer. So it should really, I get it, it's a cool way to think about it, and it's a cool way to put it, But it was Geordie Rose that told me off for using Observer. So I think when the guy that created the world's first quantum computer has a problem with Observer, I think you have to bring it up, because that's why you've got to put the D wave inside that place frozen as cold as it is, so that electromagnetic interference, or as they call it, an observer. But as soon as we hear Observer, we think me or you, Joe. We think it needs our peepers on it, right?
Yeah, we think intelligence like us,
Yeah,
you know,
exactly,
but
dude.
that's so that's not really the case.
It's a good way of doing it in a thought experiment on the macro scale to explain what's happening at the quantum scale. But again, it's that observer thing. I always used to think it was like a camera, or
I do too. I thought
Yep.
it was that, yeah. But
Like,
apparently it's not.
the minute you go to measure it, that's what I thought the observer was. Even if it's a piece of kit, that was enough to collapse it. But in reality, the cosmic background radiation is an observer, and that's why things aren't in quantum states, because it's decoherence. It knocks
Right.
it off.
It
There
says
you
here
go.
the second you observe a quantum system, it picks a specific location or state, breaking the superposition.
Woo, Lance.
Ooh, boy,
Brother.
boy.
Thank you, brother.
I just wanted to hear the voice say diddly diddly bing bang boom boom diddly boom bang boom boom bang boom.
Try saying that again, eh? Lance, thank you
Yeah,
so
well-
much, brother. I tell you, I would try and say
Fantastic.
that again. In fact, we'll try and say that before we leave today. Yeah, so Joe, are we going to blink out of existence soon, or are we just going to like appear somewhere else? Could I be in your house and my house at once?
It sounds interesting, but in 1961, physicist Eugene Wigner
Uh-oh.
proposed
Wiggy,
a
wiggy.
thought experiment.
It's the wiggy. It's the
The
wigger.
Wiggy did it.
Yeah.
He questioned what would happen when applying quantum mechanics to an observer that is themselves being observed. Imagine that a friend of Wigner tossed a quantum coin, which is in a superposition of both heads and tails inside a closed laboratory. Every time the friend tosses the coin, they observe a definite outcome. We can say that Wigner's friend establishes a fact. The results of the coin toss is definitely heads or tail.
And before you continue, Joe, I might as well point out that the friend of Wig was Popeye. He was the one
Popeye.
throwing the coin.
That's right. It says here Wigner doesn't have access to this fact from the outside, and according to quantum mechanics, must describe the friend and the coin to be in a superposition of all possible outcomes of the experiment. That's because they are entangled, spookily connected, so that if you manipulate one, you also manipulate the other. Wigner can now, in principle, verify this superposition using a so-called interference experiment, a type of quantum measurement that allows you to unravel the superposition of an entire system, confirming that two objects are entangled. And when Wigner and the friend compared notes later on, the friend will insist they saw definite outcomes for each coin tossed. Wigner, however,
Thank you, Austin.
oh man, this is
Yo
great.
diggity yo yo. What's up, fellas?
Brian's rapping tonight.
Wow, Brian. Woo!
He's getting wiggy with it.
Wigner, however, will disagree whenever he observes the friend and coin in a superposition. And this, it says, presents a conundrum. The reality perceived by the friend cannot be reconciled with the reality on the outside. Wigner originally didn't consider this much of a paradox. He argued it would be absurd to describe a conscious observer as a quantum object. However, he later departed from this view, and according to formal textbooks on quantum mechanics, the description is perfectly valid. So the scenario has long remained an interesting thought experiment, but does it reflect reality? Scientifically, there's been little progress on this until very recently when Kozlov Bruckner at the University of Vienna showed that under certain assumptions, Wigner's idea can be used to formally prove that measurements in quantum mechanics are subjective to observers. Bruckner proposed a way of testing this notion by translating the Wigner's friend scenario into a framework first established by physicist John Bell in 1964. Bruckner considered two pairs of Wigners and friends in two separate boxes, conducting measurements on a shared state, inside and outside their respective box. The results can be summed up to ultimately be used to evaluate a so-called Bell inequality. And if this inequality is violated, observers could have alternate facts. We have now, for the first time, performed this test experimentally at Heriot-Watt University in Edinburgh on a small-scale quantum computer made up of 3 pairs of entangled photons. The first photon pair represents the coins, and the other 2 are used to perform the coin toss, measuring the polarization of the photons inside their respective box. Outside the 2 boxes, 2 photons remain on each side that can also be measured. Despite using state-of-the-art quantum technology, it took weeks to collect the sufficient data for just 6 photons to generate enough statistics. But eventually we succeeded in showing that quantum mechanics might indeed be incompatible with the assumption of objective facts. We violated the inequality. Wow.
Awesome quantum talk, smiley face.
Yes, Renzo, I thought you would be, your ears would be picking up to this, indeed. No, Joe's getting a download. He's getting the download.
That, maybe
Ange-
this is why he can't be seen.
Ange
or
says,
whatever.
maybe this is one of the reasons why God can't be seen, is because of, the quantum,
It may be a symptom
like
of
a symptom
omnipotence,
of
Like,
quantum
being
mechanics.
Omniscient.
I don't know. It's pretty interesting.
Big
Where
time,
am I?
dude. I don't know where you got
Hold
to.
on. Oh, yeah. So it says this experiment therefore shows that at least for local models of quantum mechanics, we need to rethink our notion of objectivity. The facts we experience in our macroscopic world appear to remain safe, but a major question arises over how existing interpretation of quantum mechanics can accommodate subjective facts. How do you do that? How do you accommodate that, Kev? That's kind of interesting. You can't really plan for
So reality's fluid then. Everyone
it's
is at the
basically
center.
fluid, right.
Everyone is at the center of their own universe. We're all at the we're all player one in our own simulation, basically.
That's right.
Yep. By that,
How
Scott, wouldn't you
crazy
agree
is
that
that?
that's one way of putting it, Scott? If that's the case, then literally,
I do.
I would think.
So
Yeah.
does this mean that reality is fake news?
It literally looks like this is actually saying that reality might be fake news. Go tell Orange Man and Mr. Boris Johnson, he's another one. Yeah, so it says here some physicists see these new developments as bolstering interpretations that allow more than one outcome to occur for an observation. For example, the existence of parallel universes in which each outcome happens. Others see it as compelling evidence for intrinsically observer-dependent theories such as the quantum Bayesianism, in which an agent's actions and experiences are central concerns of the theory. But yet we take this as a strong pointer that perhaps quantum mechanics will break down above certain complexity scales. I would say so, it probably wouldn't work anywhere above the quantum scale. Hence why it's called quantum mechanics and why it's so opposite to everything that we find in the big world of the macro. I know, it's weird. It's a weird article, I think, in a way.
Well, I was going to bring up something absolutely ridiculous that I had seen a while back talking about this. And one of our trans fluid friends tried to use this as an argument as to why you can't assign genders to people. And it goes back to exactly what you were talking about, Kev. This is something that is only on the micro scale at the quantum level, and to use it as a argument for something on the macro scale was absolutely ridiculous. But yeah, they're trying to say, well, quantum physics shows that, well, because it's just subjective reality and subjective facts, then that means you can be whatever you want to be. You can identify, and that gender doesn't exist. And I'm like, oh gosh.
It ties in Mandela's as well, because if you're collapsing things yourself, then facts and memories are going to be different. One quick headline before we go. I'm going to dive into this during the week. I seen this just yesterday crossing my path. Hang on till I get rid of the stupid adverts. Oh, there we go. I'll just have to leave that one on top. But it says here, scientists have found a fifth force of nature.
Oh, interesting.
No, it's very interesting because we're starting to get close to like them talking about a new force that would explain gravity. Not just gravity as part
Like
of the standard model, but
dark matter thing, huh?
yeah, it says researchers claim to have observed energy that connects the visible world, and they call it to dark matter, but what I would call it is to the unseen. You can call it another dimension. You can call it the paranormal world, the supernatural world, the stuff we don't understand. They call it dark energy, but it's that unknown. And there's, long story short, they expected a particle to act one way. They noticed it wasn't. They thought it might be just a kind of a fluke. They went back and looked again and, oh, wow, these particles are acting this way. So that means I had to laugh because they said the particles were acting. It was almost making out the particles were misbehaving. They were doing something they shouldn't. But in reality, what it tells me is your bloody theories are wrong. The particles are doing everything that they've always done. Just because you're now getting to see them and they don't fit with what you thought before doesn't mean that the particles are doing something new and unique. It means your theory was wrong to begin with. Do you know what I'm saying, Scott? It's like blaming the particles for not behaving the way that scientists thought.
Shame on you, particles.
Shame on you, particles. Now we're going to have to rewrite physics. God damn it.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
Yeah, the particles have always been acting like that from the very get-go. They just now stumbled upon it and were like, oh, those particles are doing something completely new and erratic that we've never observed before.
It's crazy. But guys, we're out of time. We are there once again. Want to thank everyone for tuning in today.
Yeah, thank you, and all you super chatters out there. Thank you for supporting my man Kev.
Big time. But Joe, I must admit, you know, when the animal whisperer came into the paranormal, I thought, well, where's the animal whisperer coming from and how's it going to fit with us? But did it ever? Big time. And I'll certainly be going to look at that full video.
Oh man,
thank
Kev,
you,
it's
Polly.
Unbelievable. Thanks, Polly.
This is a showdown, a throwdown, come on and shake PPP.
And folks, I will be back tomorrow daytime with KBS Live. Used to be called the Safe Space. It's just KBS Live now. Can't have 10 brands going around. We're going to blow one brand up and it's going to be all of us on KBS Live. So no more Safe Space, Weekend Woo, just KBS Live. And that incorporates these two fine-looking gentlemen as well. And that way we don't get confused. There might be people out there saying, well, I listen to the Kev Baker Show Safe Space. Do you not listen to KBS at night on TFR? What are you talking about, KBS at night? So if we do KBS Live the whole time and Joe's laughing, he's thinking it had to be his name. Of course it had to be my name. I've got the accent, Joe. Till you master the accent.
Hey, I'm all for it.
Until you can play the bagpipes and master the accent, we're just going to have to roll with it. But to play us out tonight...
It'll have to be another life, Kev,
yes,
really, truly.
To play us out tonight, you know, it's not my music at the weekends anymore. Yes, indeed. It's Mr. Lopez we can blame for this one. Is blame the right word, though, really?
Thank you in advance, Scotty.
You're welcome, Joe. You're welcome.
Come on.
You know.
Come on. So, folks...
Somebody had to step up and take control of this situation, at least on the weekends.
No, just before I go, I need to check one thing. Tomorrow, folks, we have got Charlie Robinson on the show. So that's tomorrow. We're definitely simulcasting that one. It's going to be algorithm unfriendly. Charlie always is. So yeah, I'll be here tomorrow night, main show proper. I'll be here during the day as well. So wherever you are, make sure you keep looking for the woo, but not to the point where your brain turns to black goo.
And before we go, I want to wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving coming up. I won't be there.
Yeah, very, 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 very happy.
Well, that's right.
On Thursday,
I forgot you guys have your Thanksgiving. Have you got plenty to be thankful for this year in America?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah.
And what is it going to be? Is it going to be impeachment hearings over Turkey? Lance, come on, dude.
Oh,
You absolutely, man. Dang, dude. Dang. That is so appreciated because that goes on like the December kind of Google. Wow, man. Thank you, brother. Thank you. So then on that note...
TMKS for more rock.
Yes, on that note, we will play Scott's music and Joe's. I'm not going to blame you entirely, Scott. And we'll...
And Lance's.
What's that?
And Lance's.
Yes, here we go, right? Again, here we go. I'm going to assault my eardrums. Ha ha ha! Not with that one, I'm not.